Hello, my name is Tiffany Jett, Public Relations and Marketing Manager for the Salvation Army. You are watching The Orlando Moment, which is a web-based talk show that highlights the latest news at the Salvation Army. National Salvation Army Week is Monday, May 8th through Friday, May 12th. Today, we're going to speak with Major Ted Morris, who's the area commander, to better understand National Salvation Army Week. Mrs. Major and Major Williford will also join us in the discussion. Stay tuned. Major Morris, what is the history behind National Salvation Army Week?
Well, under the leadership of President Dwight D. Eisenhower in 1954, the Congress declared the week in May to be National Salvation Army Week. And it was really for the purpose of allowing people and emphasizing the desire to give of themselves. And so ever since 1954, we've had National Salvation Army Week, and it's been recognized in different ways all over the country.
That's awesome. So how does the Salvation Army give hope without discrimination?
We have an office here that every day, every weekday, people come in who are pretty much hopeless. They've tried everything else, and they come to us, and they're often frustrated, they're often tired, and they walk in our office and they say, look, I've done everything I can. I need help with my rent. I need help with my utilities. I'm going to be evicted. And we try to walk with them and partner with them and walk along and find out what it was that caused that crisis in the family so we can prevent it from happening again. So we try to do that. We don't care who they are. We don't care where they're from. We just know they're in crisis. And so if they come to us, we try to provide hope with our case managers, walking alongside them and trying to bring a resolution to that issue.
Now, the Salvation Army offers a series of different services that many people are not familiar with. So what types of services does the Salvation Army of Orlando offer that most people would not be aware of?
One of the services we have that's really national or international is our missing persons department. And we are part of that because we can refer people to our office that find missing persons. We will help someone find a lost family member. Now, we don't get involved in adoption cases or custody cases, things like that. But if someone has just lost track of a family member, they can contact us and we can refer them to the office that will go literally around the world to find their family member and locate them. Now, sometimes people don't want to be found. They want to be, on their own. And sometimes, and we've been involved with that before. But if they don't want to be found, then we report back saying we found them, they're safe, but they choose not to be contacted by their family. And so we offer this as a service. It's $50 one-time fee. We do about 600 cases a year, and about half of them are found.
That's incredible.
That's kind of a hidden ministry of the Salvation Army. Because we're in 128 countries around the world, we can do that. And so that's a blessing to be able to do that.
That's incredible. That's good news. Thank you, Major.
You're very welcome.
Mrs. Major, what types of programs and services does the Salvation Army of Orlando's church offer?
Tiffany, that's a really big question because with a really big answer. Because the Salvation Army, we believe that we're not to go through this life alone, right? There's something really beautiful about community and about friendship and about hope. And how hope can grow when you have community and when when you've got deep friendships. So the Salvation Army Church, we call a corps because we have military language. The church offers so much. We have a little fellowship called the Cradle Roll, which is for infants, newborns to preschool. And then we have character building programs for your first grade through 12th grade, similar to like Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, but the Salvation Army has developed their own called, there's moonbeams for the really little ones, and then sunbeams for the girls, the little ones, and then Girl Guards for the older girls, Adventure Corps, Explorers and Rangers for the little boys and the middle school through high school boys. And then we have things like, if you connect with singing, right? We have a choir called Songsters. We have, do you like to play instruments? We have brass bands. We have beginner, we have intermediate, we have adult brass bands. We have handbells, some people just say they like that type of music. So we have handbells. We have women's groups. We've like 7 different kinds of women's groups. So do you like to scrapbook? Do you like Bible study? Do you like fellowship? Do you just being together with gals? That kind of thing. We have a men's fellowship. And that group, they have had such a wonderful time over the last year, doing all kinds of different things, giving back, service projects, Bible studies for their own growth, right? Fun nights, tonight they're going to have a game night, and so really it's about community. We have worship services every Sunday. We have worship services. So all those groups sort of come together, right, and worship once a week. We have Sunday school, which is a children's program and adult program to get into God's Word and the Scriptures and sort of dig around and see how does that apply to me today.
Right.
So there's just really a myriad of things, and I probably have left out 3 or 4.
Well, it sounds like there's something for everyone.
Absolutely.
Now, how can
Absolutely.
someone get in contact with you if they want more information?
Well, they would just call the Salvation Army in Orlando. You can call the main number. You can be transferred to the program department. You could email us. You could text us. We have a pamphlet that shows everything that we do in the church. We'd be glad to scan that and send it to you. You know, technology nowadays, we will get it into your hands, and we would love to have people visit and stay if they would like.
Now, what time is church on Sunday?
10:45.
Okay.
And the Sunday school, like I said, for adults and children, starts at 9:30.
Okay.
So we would love to have anybody and everybody come and visit and perhaps stay.
That would be incredible. Well, thank you, Mrs. Major.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it. Major Williford, you come in contact with many people with your ministry. What is your most memorable experience with a person since your arrival in Orlando?
Well, Tiffany, many years ago, one of my mentors pointed out to me the fact that Jesus encountered thousands of people during his ministry, and then he even had the 12 disciples, and of that he had like an inner 3 that he really spent time with and developed. And I look at that on a core level and think about, an angel tree in Christmas, the thousands of people who we interact with or through our shelters. And, we can impact their lives, but to have that one-on-one relationship would be pretty hard. And even with our church, it would be difficult to have the same relationship with every person that comes through the door, even people who attend on a very regular basis. So I took my mentor's words to heart, and I have really identified about 3 people that I've really tried to mentor or to spend time with. And it was interesting, one of those folks had only been here for a little while, and honestly, it would annoy me when he would come in the office because we'd have the same conversations over and over. And one of my friends pointed out to me, he does so much, he just wants to be heard. And so that was like one of those light switch flip things in my mind. Was, am I that busy that I don't have time to give this man 20 minutes, even if it is what we just talked about yesterday?
Right.
And so that was very memorable to me. That was kind of a ta-da moment to me to be more intentional about my relationship with this individual who was such a vital part of our core. There's another guy that I spend time with. We get together probably about once a month. He and I have a very similar interest, and we go to a restaurant. We watch a pay-per-view. You have to get to the restaurant about 2 hours before the pay-per-view ever starts. So that gives us a chance to just meet and just rehash what's going on in our lives. And even with the pay-per-view, there's action, and then there's like filler.
Right.
And so even during that, we can spend time talking to each other. And it's about 5 hours, by the time we start to the time that we leave. And then there's another gentleman here that he and I have really started almost like a motorcycle ministry. And so almost every Saturday, we'll go somewhere in Central Florida. And again, that's a 3 or 4 or 5 hour chunk of time. And a lot of times it's not talking. I mean, it's just he's on his bike, I'm on my bike. We have other people that join in. But then when we do stop, we get to just have a cup of coffee and talk about things sometimes totally unchurch related, but just to share and fellowship and to see each other as real live human beings and to spend time with each other. And that has made probably more of an impact on me than it has those 3 gentlemen.
Yes. Relationships are so important, and God puts certain people in our lives for different reasons. And so the individuals that he's placed in your life have impacted you in a positive way, it sounds like.
Oh, I'm far richer for knowing them than they are for knowing me.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Now, since you joined the Salvation Army, I know you've done a lot of disaster work. So how did the Salvation Army of Orlando respond to the Pulse tragedy?
Well, when I look at disasters on the whole, I always break them down to were they a natural disaster or are they man-made? And with even man-made, some aren't intentional. I mean, I've responded to wrecks, and I've responded to tanker trucks that have turned over. But there's other disasters that will happen that are man-made, and they are intentional. And it really doesn't matter what the ideology is. There are real victims that are involved in it. And so I think when you go to something like Pulse, you go with an entire different mindset than you did, say, that if a hurricane had come through, or if a tornado. I know a lot of times with natural disasters, we rush in and we try to pick up the pieces, and we try to give somebody a clamshell with a hot meal in it, and off we go.
Right.
Whereas something with Pulse, you have to be a little more deliberate. You have to be invited in. And I know that Major Morris was called very early on that morning and invited in, by our county leaders to come in. And then you go in and you say, where can we be the most effective? We have a lot of response and a lot of experience. Like I said, with just preparing 1,500 meals in clamshell, and off you go. But how do you minister to professionals who are sifting through a horrific scene, such as the Pentagon or such as the Pulse nightclub shooting? And so it's a whole different mindset. And you realize that these are people that you're going to build relationships with. Not just I rode down your street in a canteen and I handed the clamshell and a Coke out the window. I may see you again, I may not. Whereas like with the folks that were at Pulse, we were there on site for well over a week. And so we had FBI agents that would come to us, that would seek us out and ask, can I just talk to you for a few minutes? And so the impact that you make on their lives. And again, it's like so many times with situations like that, we're far richer knowing them than they are from knowing us. But to have the ability to just have a cool place on a hot day, sit down and to take your mind out of the nightmare that you just experienced and that you saw and that you will have to go back into, just to give a person a respite for 15 or 20 minutes. It's what it's all about.
Now, did you actively participate in the response to Pulse?
Towards the end, and more towards some of our events that we did with like the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. We did a big memorial service down at Dr. Phillips, and so we were there on site. I was actually not in town for the majority of the Pulse. I came back in towards the end and was able to spend just a little bit of time down at the site, but not like. But that's the great thing, is that we have such a wonderful team here in place that we can have that true incident command system where you have people there for a while, and then you're able to rotate them out and to replace them. So it's interesting because a lot of times when I do respond to disasters on a big scale, a lot of times I'm in the second wave. I very rarely have ever been like the initial wave that's going in. I've always been the beneficiary of people who have gone in and done the groundwork. And I've just kind of got to come in and build on what they did. So really when I look at my Pulse experience, it was more like that. I was the second wave.
Now, what was that experience like, just being on site?
It's a little eerie because you don't graduate high school in the United States with the idea that someone can walk into a nightclub and deliberately kill 59 people or 49 people and wound another 50. It's the mindset. And I drive by Pulse probably once a month. And as I drive by there, you see the signs and you see the flowers and it looks nice from the outside. But to imagine the horrific scene and to imagine the terror of people after the initial shock, because the first thing you would have would be denials, it's really happening. But then to realize that here's somebody hunting us down. So it's hard to get your mind wrapped around how something like that could actually happen in the City Beautiful.
Right. Yeah. Well, thank you, Major Williford.
Thank you.
I would like to end the show by testing the Major's knowledge of the Salvation Army. Each Major will receive a true or false question. Major Morris. The annual Red Kettle Christmas fundraising campaign started in 1891 when a Salvation Army captain in San Francisco set up a crab pot and began collecting money for the poor at Christmas. Is this true or false?
It's absolutely true. In fact, my parents grew up in Japan for many years. There's a Christmas kettle in Tokyo where 1 million people walk by every day. They fill it up 3 times a day. It's so crowded they can't use a bell, they use a microphone.
Oh, that's awesome. I didn't know that. That's
True.
good to know.
Mm-hmm.
Mrs. Major, true or false? The Salvation Army's roots come from London, England. Former Methodist minister William Booth and his wife Catherine created the Salvation Army in 1870.
Tiffany, you were so close. It's 1865.
Thank you. Major Williford, true or false? The Salvation Army currently has locations in approximately 128 countries. Some locations include Africa, Europe, South Asia, and America.
It's true for today. The Salvation Army is constantly growing and changing. So as of today, 128.
So tomorrow it could be 130, huh?
It could be.
Well, this concludes our episode of the Orlando Moment. Thank you for watching.